Hi, I'm Joan Landis. I'm one of the co-authors of the Dash into Happy books, and we are having such a great experience sharing these with children and helping children understand their feelings much more deeply. The interesting thing about the Dash into Happy approach is that we get to the roots of children's emotions. We aren't just teaching children to put superficial band-aids on. We're not teaching parents how to manipulate the children just to get some good behavior in the moment. We're really helping parents understand that their children's development is very much like a tree, and that attachment is like the roots in the ground. And when your children are properly attached to you as parents and other caregivers, that provides the stability for the children to grow healthfully in the rest of their lives. So one of the things that we do, Dash into Happy, is that we provide some tools for you right in the Open and Go books, okay? You really don't need any kind of a psychological background. You don't need a history of counseling. Like I'm a licensed counselor, but you really don't need to be able to do that in order to use these genius little books, okay? So one of the things that we do in this book, in the books, is we offer you the pre-story lesson. So you as a parent briefly read through it and you decide what you want to teach your child before you read the story. Now, are you going to teach them everything the first time? No, you're not. That is the genius of these books, is that these books are to be read over and over and over again. That's one reason why we chose fairy tales, because we know that fairy tales have a classic enduring appeal to generations, and that children love rereading and rereading these fairy tales. So as you read them, each time you will incorporate a little more or different parts of the lesson or questions into the reading experience with your children. And so each time you read is different. Each time you read is a different discussion, and you develop different insights. And so just like when I do my counseling with my clients, a lot of times we'll come to an issue with counseling and it's down here on this level, and we talk about a particular issue on this level. And as they grow and learn and develop new skills, interestingly, we will come back to that same issue again, but it will be on a higher level. And then as they grow and develop and learn new skills, guess what? We'll come back to the same issue, but again, it's on a higher level. And so these books can do the same thing. We talk about some of the same fundamental issues, but we will build on the skills and insights so that each discussion is at a little bit higher level. And you'll find that as you watch the video that we just made of my granddaughters, they spontaneously had important insights that they contributed to the discussion and became experiential inner core learning for them to help them with their core beliefs. So it was really a powerful experience, but very simple, okay? So the first thing that we do is we talk about the lesson goals. And so the lesson goals in this particular book are to identify characters' feelings, to identify the body signals that accompany feelings. Now that's very, very important for kids to understand their emotions, is to understand how their body signals are connected. So that's very important. Number 3 is to develop early compassion for others. So that's one of the most important things that we can do as parents and caregivers, is to teach and train and model for our children compassion for others. And unfortunately, that is something that a lot of the media does not do for children. They don't teach children to be compassionate. Often they teach children to be harsh, sarcastic, rejecting, and things that aren't really healthy for relationships. And then number 4 is to identify how receiving comfort feels good. Now, why is that important? That's important because many children that have not been attached properly to their parents, sometimes they become dismissive or like they don't need attachment. They have become discouraged. And so when they are upset, they don't reach out for comfort. Well, that's a problem, because then when they get older, guess what they reach out for? They reach out for drugs. They reach out for process addictions. They reach out for distractions. They reach out for anything to get their mind off of the pain. And so one of the most important things we can do for the children in our care is to teach them that it feels good to reach out for support and comfort. So even in the first book, the very first book, we are covering very, very important foundational concepts for children in very simple ways. Then before we, on these, along with the books, you also receive a bookmark, and you'll get a close-up of it later. But on the front is each of the goals, and on the back are key questions to ask at key points in the story. So you just keep that right with you so you can refer to it. Another really fun thing about Dash and Happy is that each of the goals is identified in a certain color of print, okay? So on here it says to identify the character's feelings. So when you look at the actual story, we have done a lot of work for you and already put some answers in here in the colored ink, okay? So number one is to identify the character's feelings. And so here on page 5, it says, I'm hungry too, and he dreaded being scolded, okay? Both of those are simple feelings that children can relate to. And so that gives you as a parent a hint that that's something that you can kind of highlight for them, kind of, make a little more important for them to tune in to feelings, right? So then what you do is you, before reading, you ask the child what it means to feel happy or sad, and talk about that feelings are very important, and that it's important to understand ourselves and others so we can get along better. Now that's just right there in black and white for you, very simple. The next thing is emotional vocabulary. And so each lesson has emotional vocabulary for young children and older children. And so it has a word and then it has an example. At that point, when you ask the children, what does this word mean, or you teach them what it means, encourage them to act it out, or you act it out, because that makes it more experiential and more real for them, and children need that movement, okay? So consider doing that. Now, do you have to do all of the vocabulary words every time? Of course not. You might just do one. You might pick others that you think are important. Maybe your children have been having a struggle this week with certain feelings, and so you can incorporate that into this little pre-story discussion. So that's a wonderful thing to do. Then, while reading, you want to have the child tap their heart or hold up a puppet or something whenever a character feels a feeling in the story. So you can tell that since these are Dash and Happy, we are very tuned into emotions, very tuned into feelings. And so that's part of what we want the children to do, is tune in to those and notice, how is the character feeling? The other thing is, when you see an asterisk or a star in the story, then you are invited to just flip this over and ask some basic questions that help the children to gain insights and think deeply about themselves and other people's feelings. And it's a very important process for them to actually take that moment and think deeply with you by their side, and you can help guide them. This helps develop empathy, it helps develop insight, and it helps develop compassion for self and others. So this is a very important thing, but super simple, very simple. Then you continue reading and read to the end. And then when you get to the end, there's also a post-story lesson. And so these are other optional things you can do too. You don't have to do them, and you certainly wouldn't want to do them if your children are at all tired, okay? But some of them are, have the child identify some emotions they noticed in the story. So you could go line by line in some of the middle of the story, the end of the story, and just encourage the child to talk about those feelings. Have the child notice the body signals, okay? So that's really important. It's like, what are the body signals? Do they feel something in their shoulders, their tummy, their face frowned, anything like that, so that children can start looking for these signals in themselves and other people and start noticing and giving some importance to those. And then ask the child what body signals they experience with the following emotions. And you say, Lydia, when you feel compassionate, how does your body feel? Where in your body do you feel compassion? Or, Vivian, when you feel nervous or anxious, where do you feel that in your body? And how can you tell that you feel anxious or nervous? And what we're trying to do is help children connect their thoughts and emotions to their body, a very holistic view, and not repress and suppress things and deny things, because that's where we get into problems later. If they can learn to put words to their feelings, if they can talk it out, then they don't have to act it out. And that is key in managing good behavior for children. If we can give them the words and connect that up with their body and have a place that they can discuss these things, then they feel like they've been heard, validated, empathized, they feel safe, they feel comforted, and they don't feel alone in their distress, which is a very important concept. Then number 4 in this particular book is ask something specific, like when Baby Bear was frustrated at his porridge being gone, what did Papa Bear do for him? Okay, that is goal 4, isn't it? To learn that receiving comfort feels good. And so we ask the readers, we ask them, what did Papa Bear do to comfort that little bear? And that's an important thing for your children to see, is that when someone is distressed, that other people can reach out and comfort, and the distressed person can receive that comfort. That's very, very important. And then there's a little summary at the end, and just reviewing the skills one more time, and then the goals one more time. And then what you would do is just during the week or during the day, see if you can connect any of these learnings up with things that have happened during the day. So if your child is upset, you might say something like, do you need a little bit of comfort like Baby Bear? Can I be like Mama Bear? Something like that. Or, are you frustrated like Sam when the chair broke? Are you frustrated like Sam? And these can help provide some scaffolding for meaning and insight for your children to be able to start increasing their emotional quotient, their emotional, their emotional IQs. The EQ is what we call it. Anyway, I'm super excited about these. The response that we've had have been really profound so far. And I hope you watch the video of my reading to these little granddaughters of mine. They each had specific, profound insights about their own selves and their feelings over and above anything that's printed here. And that's where the magic, that's where the genius of these books will come, is in these beautiful, tender discussions that you have with your children, and then the behaviors of comfort, soothing, and empathy and compassion that can happen afterwards. Anyway, it's been a joy, and I hope we can continue learning together. Please, as you work with these and play with these and experience these with your children, give us feedback on the things that you've loved and the insights that your children have developed. All right, hope we can all dash into happy.